Hi guys, Athena's here, and today we're going to work on a black salve recipe. The reason this is called a black salve recipe is we are going to be using activated charcoal. Now, the thing about activated charcoal that I really love is it will also cleanse putrid water. It's like a good thing to have in your first aid. You could shove it just directly into a wound and it will keep the bloodstream from creating a place where it just goes further into the body if you were bit by a rattlesnake. And that brings me to what we're doing, because if you like the outdoors and you want to go hiking and fishing and camping and all of that stuff, we know that there are snakes, spiders, splinters, and things that get jammed down into the skin. And this salve draws all of that out, particularly if you are not near a hospital and you can't get that taken care of in another way. Although I have heard stories that you might want to handle a lot of that yourself before you get to a hospital. And so the activated charcoal is kind of a big deal. So we will be working off of the workbook, my workbook, The Medicine Chest by Michelle Day Harper. But if you don't have that workbook, just journal some notes, because this is something that, you might want to have a copy of this in case you can't just look it up or find me on the internet or someone else, so that you will always have kind of a written copy of these first aid kind of modalities. And I love this. This is really easy to make. All you're going to need is you've got 1 tablespoon of your activated charcoal, 1 tablespoon of white clay, okay, not hard to access, and about 3 teaspoons of beeswax. And if you get that in a hard chunk, go ahead and chop it up and kind of measure it. This isn't extremely exact. This is just going to harden up your recipe and make it into a salve. Here's a finished. So you see it becomes a solid, right? That you can put into a tin or a glass jar. So this is one of those things that you could keep in a first aid cabinet. You could take it on a camping trip. So if someone gets bitten by rattlesnake, brown recluse, even if it is just a plant allergy or something, you can put this salve on that and it will draw it out. The other thing that this salve is good for is ingrown hair, cystic acne, things like that. Use it as a spot treatment to draw out the poison. This has a drawing effect. What it does is it keeps the poison and the infection from going deeper into the bloodstream. It actually draws it up to the surface so you can extract it out, scrape it out, whatever. And if we're thinking about, we've been on a hike and someone got injured by some of those spider bites too will take you down, or a rattlesnake or something like that. We've got something in our arsenal to start taking care of that immediately and draw it out of the bloodstream. Very easy to make. And also, I really suggest keep the activated charcoal around the house, because like I said, it will cleanse putrid water. It's a great first aid piece of advice that I have there for you. So what we're gonna do is I have about 1/3 of a cup of oil that I'm heating up in kind of a double boiler situation that you've seen me do before, kind of with the glass, and it's kind of like melting chocolate when you're dealing with your waxes. And all you're doing is you're trying to make oils and your mixture into a more solid. And also it kind of gives them some shelf life too. that this will kind of last a while. So I really like that. We went over infusing oils in one of my last videos, and this oil that I'm using is specific to skin. If you didn't have that, castor oil is fine. Olive oil is fine. Any kind of oil is fine. I think that if you're looking to make a more complicated medicine, that you would want to start with an infused oil, deals with pain, infection, and then build upon it. If you're not in that place, that's fine. Just some olive oil, castor oil, any kind of oil that you have will make this formula happen for you. I like this because I know some of you are living in cold climate and you're not thinking about hiking. I'm in the West. We're already doing that. And in a month or two, they're going to say, oh, the rattlesnakes have come out. And then east of me in Texas and so on, they have the brown recluse, which if you know anyone who's had a brown recluse bite, wow. I mean, it leaves huge scars. That really goes into the skin. It kills off skin cells. And so the best thing is to draw that out. And I think that the activated charcoal is our best friend. But we're going to make something that is, easy for us to keep in a tin or a jar that we just have it handy. You could put it in your backpack if you're going on a wilderness trip, or just keep it at home for somebody who's had a spider bite or something. You'll be prepared. You'll have something ready. When this formula is completed, to go ahead and pack it on that wound and then wrap it with cotton or wrap it with muslin. And you've even seen in movies where they tear a piece of their shirt off to wrap the wound. That actually works. So to be able to have a bandage or something and just keep that tight on there so that it draws things out. I actually had someone who they were unpacking boxes, had wood and a piece of metal jammed down into their finger. We used this to kind of draw that out, and over time it was coming to the surface so we could tweeze it out instead of having to dig in there. And it also was killing the infection and the pain while that was going on. So we're really looking at first aid here, and I think if you're into making medicine, let's really take a look at first aid. So I have oil, 1/3 of a cup of either a prepared infused oil. Look at my videos on infused oils if you want to know more about that. Or just olive oil, castor oil, about 1/3 of a cup is where you're at with this measurement wise. Then we're going to deal with 1 tablespoon of activated charcoal, 1 tablespoon of white clay, kaolin clay, any kind of like white drawing clay. If you live in an area where you can get clay out of the ground, same measurement, use about a tablespoon of that. Even if it's a red clay out of the ground, that will work. And don't let anyone kid you. That will work. And then we're going to deal with about 3 teaspoons of beeswax. You can use carnauba and other waxes. I like to use the beeswax. It also gives some shelf life to what I'm doing. And so, like I always say, if they give you a big brick of that, like chop it up and kind of measure about 2 to 3 teaspoons of that. You're good. You're either going to have a really, solid mixture at the end or something softer. They all work though. They all work, and you will adjust as you go on. So this is for my advanced people. If you have my workbook, The Medicine Chest by Michelle Day Harper, you can find that on Amazon. There are pages in the back that you can kind of, make some notes on this. We are on chapter 5 with salves. This recipe is not in there, so you can make some notes in the back or on those pages and keep that as a first aid kind of recipe for yourself in the book. If you don't have the workbook, and you can find it on Amazon or at my website at athenas-body.com, you can just make a journal for yourself. You don't have, there's no exclusive club here to do this. I just think the workbook is great because you'll keep everything there. It has a great index in the back with herbs. And if we were to be shut down and we can't talk to one another, you will have hard copies of this. And don't think that that may not happen. That could happen. So we have warmed up that 1/3 of a cup of oil. I happen to do a pain oil because if you look at some of my past videos, we talked about infusing a pain oil and having it ready for a situation like this. And so, but if you didn't have that, just plain olive oil, any oil, like I said. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to show you here. We're going to just drop the activated charcoal in there. We're going to drop the white clay in there. And we're going to start to just mix it in. Now, I just did a simple double boiler. You could do a glass bowl, or if you have a double boiler, kind of like using the Pyrex for these if you have it. You don't have to have it. And all you're doing is you want to keep it, it doesn't need to be like sunk down into the heat kind of thing. You want to keep it a little above the heat, like you're melting chocolate for candy. Because we're going to put that wax in and we're going to make this into a solid. I like this recipe a lot because it is easy to pack something like this into a backpack. Keep it in a first aid kit. This will also have a shelf life. I'm actually going to add a clove essential oil to this. This will have a shelf life of probably, I don't know, 2-3 years, easy, probably longer. But I would say if you're someone who, you know, like you watch those expiration dates, 2-3 years, easy, you would have this. So if anyone in your neighborhood or anyone that you're trying to help out all of a sudden had a brown recluse bite, oh my gosh, and those will scar you. That's like heavy duty stuff. Rattlesnake bite too. Anyone who's had a deep snake bite out in the wilderness, they will have a scar to show you from that. And then also just ingrown hairs. So ingrown hair, beard hair, or ingrown hairs, or cystic acne, anything that you feel like you need to draw out the poison and it's sitting underneath the skin, this is really great. This salve is very simple. Now, there are other black salves that use a tar-based, a creosote base, and we will be getting into that. I do want to go over like creosote chaparral plant with you guys. That's kind of more advanced, and we will talk about that. The more that I see that you guys write into me and you want to know more, I will be glad to show you more, because we can get into some first aid things that are way beyond this. But I'll tell you this, keeping this around the house for anyone who lives in the country, or you go visit the country, or you're going like on a nice hike or something, this is great. You can put this in a small container, and a lot of people in your hiking party or camping party would sure appreciate you if someone got a bite. Also, poison ivy. Anything that is like it's affecting you on the skin, or it has bit you, or it's just right underneath the skin, this will draw that out. This will keep you in a place of stasis, blood flow wise and everything, until you can get to maybe a doctor, and maybe you won't even need one. And I'm all for that. Like, who wants to break up a fun trip to have to go to the ER if you were already able to handle it on your own? And I am always into handling it on your own. So as you can see, I poured all that in. It's already starting to melt. You could barely see those little beads. I'll show you up here. You could barely, like those little beads are already starting to melt. And so all salves are kind of made this way. So if that was ever kind of overwhelming, like, you know, to make fancy salves and balms and different things, this is how it's made. Really simple. Just if you have the right measurements of oil and dry mixture to also what kind of wax you're using. Carnauba will always give you a stiffer, firmer formula, and beeswax a little softer. So, you know, you can adjust there. Doesn't matter which wax that you're using. And so I just love this. I think that you guys can benefit from this. And the spider bite's a big thing. When I went on a trip to Arkansas and to look at my property, and my neighbor, teenage daughter, and they showed me the pictures of her leg. A brown recluse had bit her in the house. She wasn't out hiking, but in those parts, they're, you know, prevalent. And it just left her like with the worst scar, you know. And a lady, and later she's going to want to wear skirts and things and always have this scar. And the one thing that her dad said is, why didn't they put charcoal in there and take the infection out? Because they went right to the ER. And I was like, I don't know why they didn't do that. So here you go. Always like pack that in there. You could wrap it in cloth and keep it on there. And then you can go to an ER later and see what they have to offer you. But I'm pretty sure you will have already taken care of a lot of this. So I just love this. Look at how this is nice. This is already melted. We're doing this a little quick with chocolate. I might do it a little slower if I was making that, but we're not. And so very quickly, I just whipped up a first aid product. No problem. And we're ready to pour it into some containers. And now this will become a first aid product. Now, with what I have left in here, I like to use the clove bud. And you could use any essential oil if you have it. You can omit it. If you don't have it, you don't have to have this. But the clove bud also, it's hot oil, but it also takes down the pain. So if you're on a hike and something really happened there, and they were in a lot of pain, a rattlesnake bite, really painful. Those brown recluse too, you know you've been bit. The clove, just like on teeth and stuff, takes that pain down. So I'm definitely gonna look at putting a few drops in here while it's melted down. Not many, maybe 4 drops for the amount that we're going over right now. And then when that comes into the skin, that's going to like calm the pain down. You calm the pain down, the healing starts. The more we're in pain, the more that we're tense or whatever, it restricts the blood flow and it restricts the healing. So if you can take down pain, take down inflammation, our body will handle the rest. All you're doing is assisting. You're an assistant to your body or someone else's if they're in trouble. I hope you like this because this spring and summer, I hope you get out in nature. Don't be afraid. And then for some of us, these things crawl into our house anyways, so you might as well have something great in your first aid kit, in your medicine chest. Take a look at that workbook if you'd like to follow along. If not, a personal journal will work as well. And I love you. I will see you soon. And we have Black Salve. We're all ready to go camping, fishing, and move about. So I love you. I'll see you later. Bye.